Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon and evening in States time, we're joined by Jeremy Hill, who is an investment banker, founder and managing partner of JB Capital. And we're going to have a little chat about business, networking, probably a bit of lockdown and pivoting, and a bit of football as well, because we just had a little chat before coming on air. And yes, Jeremy's a big football fan as well, which I am too. So we'll have a chat about that as well. And how are you doing today, Jeremy? You okay?
I'm wonderful, Mike, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about sharing a few minutes with you.
Yes, brilliant, brilliant. And yes, I love meeting people from all around the world and getting them to share a little bit about what they're doing. So a place I'd like to start with a lot is actually about the lockdown, because obviously it's had a lot of impact on a lot of businesses. I wanted to just
Sure.
ask you, has it had much of an effect to you? And has there been anything your business has done differently during this time?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly affecting everybody, not only from a personal level, but a professional level, right? And so, what we thought was normal and how it is that we went about not only interacting with our customers or raising money or underwriting deals or even just, you know, having lunch with a friend, right? Like all of that is now changed, and I think so oftentimes it is we get into different routines of doing whatever it is that we're doing. And so anything outside of that routine feels odd or feels weird. And now everything we do kind of feels odd and weird. And so for us in our business, a couple of the big changes that happen is my business, like a lot of people's businesses, is very personal. It's very relational. That, you know, I want to, if I'm doing business with you, Mike, you know, I want to fly to New York or fly to London or fly to Wales and come sit with you and meet with you and shake your hand and break bread with you and have a meal with you and spend time with you and get to know you. And there's a lot of that relationship aspect of most people's businesses, especially guys in either investments or professional services, that's now gone, or that's now on hold, right? And so a lot of my business has not been put on pause, but we're forced to kind of reframe what normal is, because normally, you know, once a month or once a month, twice a month, I'm on an airplane somewhere to go to New York for 3 days, or San Francisco or somewhere else for 3 or 4 days to have a bunch of meetings. And now those cities are shut down and there's, you know, protesting and all sorts of craziness going on. So we're figuring out a way for these relationships to happen over Zoom or over the phone, and when that's going to get to a point to where that's okay, you know. And so that's been one of the things that's really been kind of impacted with that. And then just, I think too, it's forced us, I don't know about you for your business, but it's also forced us to look at kind of where we spend money. Like we'd go out to lunch every day, right? Like my wife and I would go out to dinner, you know, once a week, you know, to not just dinner, but like a nice dinner, and spend a few $100 on a nice dinner and a bottle of wine. Like we do none of that. And so part of this, I think you know, so many of us maybe get away a little bit from that just ease of just spending money. And so it's okay to cook at home. It's okay to have a bottle of wine at home. It's okay to not be out the door all the time. And so I think it's causing all of us, whether it's business or personal, to just kind of reframe some things.
Yeah, definitely. I myself am somebody who has always been focused on trying to get that good work-life balance anyway. So I've been
Yeah,
working from home for the last 8 years. I got big ambitions, but I don't want to sacrifice my lifestyle for them.
sure.
I want to work smart and work around them, if you like, find a clever way of doing it, rather than having to just work hard all the time. And I think a lot of people maybe did get used to, working long hours and commuting and all of that. I actually got fed up of doing that. So I used to be corporate sales director of a fast growth tech startup business. And what
Mhm.
I realized is I didn't want to do that all my life. And if I was going to do those hours and that, I'd want to do it for me and for my assets and my capital rather than for somebody else's. So
100%. Yeah.
yeah, so I decided I'll work from home and actually go for the work-life balance and try and work strategically cleverer to get that big, goal and target achieved rather than just slogging yourself to death for it, if you like. So I've been in the lockdown for about 8 years and everyone else joined me during lockdown. Everyone else started
Oh, you
living
got
my
more experience
lifestyle.
than us. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, which was good because like I used to have to work around still the main routine of life when I was working from home.
Sure.
But now everyone else has joined me in what I class as my routine of life, which is, you're sort of available from when you wake up to more or less when you go to sleep. You know,
Right.
that's how things have moved a bit now. You're definitely available in what used to be commuter time, work time, and commuter time. Yeah.
Sure.
So most people are a little bit more available now, and I'm always like that. So I work when I work all the time because I love doing what I do. But I was going to say I work when I want to, but that's all the time. But I also have a break when I want to, and that's whenever I want to. So it doesn't matter
Yeah,
if it's
that's
all the
right.
time or not. It's just whenever I want to. It's just it doesn't happen to be that often.
Right.
But if the sun's shining and I want to go out on my bike, I'll go out on my bike. I don't care what time of the day or night it is. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
It's just,
That's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right?
yeah,
Just one of the things it is that you love for sure.
yeah. Well, the things I earn less money now than when I was in the corporate world. Yeah. But I'm on a plan to earn way more money because in the corporate world, there's always caps and ceilings. So
Sure.
ultimately, you can't always get far beyond where the restrictions are within your organization. I've been there one
Yeah.
under an MD, and you know, not having much more places to go, and knowing that things will get capped at that point, and even commissions was being capped as management and stuff, because as you start making more and more money for the company, they start wanting more and more of it and giving you less and less of it as a proportion a lot of the time. So what I realised is you either put all of that time and effort in for yourself, or you get a better work-life balance where you can work half the time that most people do, but still earn a good income. But what I look at that is you also got to value the things that you value in life. So, for example, I always I get up when I want to get up. You know what I mean? I'm lucky enough to be able to get up when I want to get up. So so not setting an alarm is worth X amount of money to me. Yeah. Now I'm to go into rush hour and lose an hour of my life or hour and a half, at the beginning and the end of every day, which is
Yeah.
sorry,
That's
it's
right.
like years of your life at the end of it. All these things have what I consider to be monetary value. So I add all of those monetary values on top of what I actually do earn to give me my real earnings, which is much greater, because the thing is value is value. One value swap is worth something else value. The amount of money or monetary value that people put on something is depends on the perspective anyway. So to me, being able to live my life on my terms and do what I want to do when I want to do it is what somebody'd have to pay me a big salary to swap that.
Yeah. Agreed. 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. So to me, it's all about understanding. Life's about understanding what you value and going after that. You know what I mean? And then being successful because you achieved it, whatever that is to
Sure.
every
Well said.
individual.
Yeah. Well said.
So yeah, so that's where I'm on. I love personal development and that whole personal development space. I'm on a mission to become a global speaker. So I want, because I like traveling around the world. I like speaking to people. I like educating people and helping people. So it's like fits in with everything I want to do. It's a big goal, but if I get anywhere near where I aiming to get to, I'll be able to help and impact a lot of people in the planet, which is part of the reason why I'm doing it.
Good for you. That's great, Mike.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a little bit about sort of myself, because I like to do a bit of networking on these events as well, get to know each other and whatever.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about you and your business. How you ended up doing what you do, and what the
Sure.
plans are going forward. Really?
Yeah, so I've been in the, I've always been an entrepreneur, I guess is the quick way to say it, which means, you're generally unemployable anywhere else on earth, right? Nobody else will hire you. So, hey, buddy, I'm an entrepreneur, right? No,
Yeah.
just kidding. But it's my wife and I, shortly after it is we got married, started our first business. And we had that for 3 or 4 years, and we were in the mobile communications business. And that business turned out well. Um, we were progressing and business was growing, and we wanted to buy a house, and we wanted to start a family, wanted to start all these kinds of things, and we wanted to be kind of a grown-up, whatever a grown-up looks like 25 years ago. And so I decided it is that I was going to kind of shelf the entrepreneurship thing, and I was going to go get a job, and I was going to have health insurance and stable income and all these kinds of things that you want when you're going to be when you're a husband and a dad and all this kind of thing. And I just realized that that wasn't me. So over a 2 or 3 year period of time, I think I had 13 jobs. And you know, I'd work somewhere for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or two, and I'd just get sick of it, or I'd think the boss was a moron and I'd let him know all about it, you know, one thing or another, right? And it just took me a while to figure out really who I was and what I was meant for, and I felt like I was meant for something different. And so through course of events, I ended up kind of by accident starting the business that I have now. You know, some people have a plan and they go to university and they go here and they work for this guy for a while and then they leave and they take all that knowledge and they go start a company. And that's probably a really great way to do it. I evidently was not that smart because that wasn't my plan. My plan was just work really hard and go this way as fast as you can. And then when you hit something, turn, you know? And so through those kind of events in 2000, the end of 2002, first of 2003, my wife and I started the business that we have now called JB Capital. And so JB Capital for the last near 20 years has been in the investment banking and advisory world, to where it is that we help companies that are past the friends and family, mom and dad, rich uncle round of raising money, but they're not yet to a point to where more institutional private equity or private credit can afford to pay attention to them. So if you don't need to borrow 100 million, you need to borrow 5 or 10. That demands a little bit different, you know, looking glass for how it is that you're underwriting and putting those things together. And so here in the States, that was a market that was kind of poo-pooed to a certain degree, right? You weren't small business to where you could just, you know, create a factory of loans, and you weren't big business that where all the money is. It was this kind of business in the middle that nobody wanted to pay attention to. And those were kind of my people. That was where I liked to spend time. And so from 2003 up until recently, we would act as a banker, broker, advisor or so for helping those guys raise money. All debt-driven transactions, no equity. I don't do buy-sell. I don't do M&A transactions. I help people put together and frame the narrative of what it is that they're doing to go raise money. And so in this period of time, we've done a little bit better than $750 million. And so we've had a pretty decent sized business, which has been great. But over the last year or two, I've been vacillating on wanting to make my business smarter, on wanting to do more, to do better. Probably just like you, Mike, you're always trying to figure out a way to sharpen the pencil. You're trying to get a little bit better. You're trying to figure those things out. And that was certainly us. And so one of the things that was out of my control is that I could put together a deal, frame it, get everybody to the table, negotiate the structure, bring in the attorneys and the CPAs and everything it is that you need in order to just wrap this thing up in a bow. But ultimately, it was somebody else's decision on what they were going to do for the investment, and ultimately if the company was going to take it. And I was out of control there. I didn't like that. And I didn't like the aspect too, for a lot of the other investors that I saw, is that there seemed to be an integrity gap. There was the story that you told publicly about who you are and what your business is and how you operate and where you invest and what your money is and all these other kinds of things. And then behind the scenes, there's actually what it is that you're doing in the market. And oftentimes those two things were not the same thing. There was a delta between those two things. And that in my mind that gap was an integrity gap. Mm-hmm. And in finance, you see that a lot. And those were one of the things that just didn't sit well with me, that as we've seen since this kind of global financial crisis in 2008 that affected everybody, is that we've seen a change in how finance is done at all levels. I felt like that there was a lot of bad actors in the finance business, and I wanted to do it better. And so about a year ago, we moved out of the investment banking side of the business. We released our last 3 or 4 clients, and I started a private fund. So basically a private version of a commercial bank, to where it is that we raise money from investors throughout the world. And we invest into credit investments. So I loan money like a bank. We make credit investments throughout the US and Canada. It is to growing companies. that big shift in our business, candidly, has been monumental in a very, very, very quick period of time. And so the plans for us as a business is continue to do this, right? Continue to speak and to talk with people and to hopefully set a direction to where we raise the bar for other people to join us in the way it is that they're operating and doing business.
Yeah.
I'm looking to put out somewhere around $500 million over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So plus or minus $500 million over the next 4 or 5 years, and hopefully allow and work with some great companies to allow them to achieve the things it is that they want. Because there's candidly a lot of these guys that they don't fit the normal box of what a bank can finance for a number of reasons, right? Like, I mean, the banker's job here and in UK, both, right?
The bank only lends money to people who've got money.
You're right. They lend money to people who don't need to borrow it, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, partially it's really not their fault, right? I mean, the restrictions it is that
It's the
government
board, isn't it? And the shareholders, and they got too many people they're accountable to.
Totally. Yeah, it is. It's a difficult business. And so the challenge is for, Mike and Jeremy's software business or media company or restaurants or whatever kind of business it is that we're in, there's ebbs and flows to your business, right? Like we'll have 2 or 3 good years in a row, and then one year we get punched in the stomach, right? And then the next year is good.
Lockdown year. One year you can't trade for 6 months.
No, yeah, right. Or coronavirus hits and now we don't do shit for the next 6 months, right? I mean, all this kind of stuff, right? And so banks don't have a lot of patience for that because they're not allowed to. And there needs to be a different kind of lending that can happen that can allow you to grow your business despite those ebbs and flows. And that's really what it is that we're designed to do, right? And we don't have the normal restrictions it is that other guys have, as a result of which my capital is a little bit more expensive, right? But it's really meant to be catalytic. It's meant to be to have an impact on what the business is doing to move them through these periods of time, or to move them from point A to point B or whatever it is. And hopefully we do a really good job of that.
Yeah, brilliant. And that's sort of something I've thought about going into myself later on in life, because being an entrepreneur like yourself, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 11 years old. And you have so many great ideas sometimes when you're trying to get going, but a lot of the time you don't have the capital, or you can go to the bank, and unless you hoodwink the bank, which, my integrity don't want to do that. I'll tell the bank what I'm going to do, but the bank won't get it because the bank doesn't understand entrepreneurship and innovation and creativity and all of that. The bank just understands how much are you earning, how many sales have you made already. It understands bean counting, it counts numbers and stuff. Yeah, so it doesn't really. So there is a massive need for I think people who have an entrepreneurial brain, understand business and strategy and that sort of thing, and gaps in markets and various things like that, and are willing, if you like, to maybe lend out money at a higher rate, but still to people who are a bit more of a risk. But that's, out of risk comes opportunity.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
it's the the old saying, if you want the fruit, you got to go out on a limb. Right? You have to reach for it. If it was easy, if there was no risk, then the reward wouldn't be worth it. Right? Yeah. And most lenders, most bankers they're trained and they're meant to be risk adverse. Yeah. Right? Like they're meant to be cynics or skeptics.
It's like most finance managers or accountants in the business. Like, you know what I mean? If they were to make all the decisions, you'd never do anything innovative or creative.
That's right. That's right.
Because they'd be like, well, it might not come off, because that would be their answer. Well, it might not come off because I've been proven that it will come off. But that's where entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity comes from. Is the stuff that haven't been proven. That's what innovation is.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
So yeah, and there's a friend of mine that does the same thing in here in the UK. He's got actually about the same size pot, I think, that he's doing it with. But he also, because he's a business consultant, he puts people in there as well to help the business to grow, in order so that they can help get that money that they've borrowed back, paid back, and that sort of thing. So I was just wondering, do you do that as well?
Yeah, it's very much so, and I think that the way that he's doing it, similar to the way it is that we're doing it, I think is the right approach.
Yeah.
Um, because these businesses, as they're growing, they sometimes they don't know what they don't know, right? And
One of my favorite sayings.
right, and I guess all of us really,
Yeah.
like all of
Yeah.
us, don't know what we don't know, right? And
Yeah.
so our job as investors or as lenders here, very similar to your friend, is to make sure it is that we're providing, in my mind, that we're providing more than just capital. Ultimately, if the only thing it is that I can offer you and your business, to help is a check, then I'm not doing a very good job, or you actually shouldn't take my money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm purely just a check, if I'm just money, then it's just a commodity. Then it's just, who's going to give you the best deal and the best price of the money. And I don't ever want to do a deal like that to where I provide no other value other than capital. Like
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we're having more of an impact on that business, because for us, I make loans. I write kind of $2 to $15 million checks, typically for 1 to 3 years. So I'm not a 6 month overnight bridge lender, and I'm not, 5, 8 year, 10-year private equity. So this isn't a one night stand, and it's not a marriage proposal, right? I'm somewhere.
It's a holiday romance relationship or a
It's a
few
holiday
months.
romance. That's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but during that time, I want to make sure it is that I'm helping you, make sure that you have the right kind of accounting principles and books in order, and that you're doing qualities of earnings and audited financials. And we're moving you to this point to where a year from now or 2 years from now, when you're moving to more, institutional capital, or you're moving away, and getting cheaper capital than me, that we've really set you up and put the foundations in place it is for you to be successful beyond my participation in your business. So yeah, your buddy's doing it the right way.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, this obviously one of the key things I teach and educate people is that they're usually doing about 10% of the marketing that they should be doing. So they're usually using one, funnel to customers, and
Sure.
often they just need to try the 360 degrees of everything they could be doing. And so I guess you probably work with a lot of that's the big area that they need help with.
Yeah, a lot of things for us, it is that we're working on making sure it is that we're framing is first kind of legal protections, right? Like, has the company protected what it is that they've built and how it is that they're
Like
telling their
patents
story
and
and
that
everything
sort of
like
thing.
that. Critical, right?
Trademarks, patents.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And then even contracts within the business, right? So if there's a partnership in the business, do you guys have a partnership agreement, operating agreement put together? Is there a buy sell put together already? Because all of us, when you start businesses, and a lot of your listeners maybe too, as they're starting a business and they come into business, they come in and they get a partner, or they do whatever it is that they do. In the early stages of business, it's all romantic, right? Like it's like the first 6 months of dating your spouse or whoever it is,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah, yeah.
just
You don't really,
all
you're
love
not
and
financially tied and everything. It's just you're enjoying each other's company.
right, exactly. And business and partnerships can be the same way,
Yeah,
and it'll be the same way until it's not.
yeah,
And so I've seen a number of partnerships it is, and a number of businesses go through turmoil that they shouldn't have, because they didn't agree up front on how they were going to handle decisions when they disagreed. Right. And so if Mike and Jeremy are partners in Mike and Jeremy's software business or whatever it is, right? When we come into this, we need to understand the fact that, hey, we're partners, and maybe we are 50-50. Great. But what happens when we disagree? Who trumps who? And maybe Mike trumps Jeremy if it's a sales and marketing conversation, right? If we disagree and it's sales and marketing, Mike has the winning vote. And if it's Jeremy and it's finance, then maybe Jeremy has the winning vote. But there's a lot of those things for partnerships that people need to do. So we make sure it is that they understand really kind of legal frameworks, and making sure that the business is going to continue. Same thing for finance and accounting, making sure it is that their books are just done as well as they can be, and that their financial accounting and reporting and these things that are boring, I get it, they're boring. But if you are ultimately going to go raise real money, or you're ultimately going to want to go to a big regional bank and get cheaper money than what I'm going to provide for you. These are all of those little foundational things that people are going to appreciate a year from now, 2 years from now. And it's just really helping them set those things up, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And another friend of mine sells, shareholder insurance and key man cover
Sure.
and directors' loans cover and all those sort of things. And they're
Absolutely.
the other things which, if you don't put those things in place, then if
Agreed.
somebody dies, or it can rip families apart, and all sorts of things can happen
Agreed.
because of
Yeah.
you're not protecting it properly,
Yeah, and for our shareholders, we do the same thing. So on all of our companies that we invest in, we take out key man insurance and collateral assignments and disability policies on the principal, because there's that old saying of, are you betting on the jockey or betting on the horse, kind of a thing. Is that oftentimes if we're investing into, Joe's software business, whatever the company is, as much as you like the business, typically, those businesses under 100 million or so in revenue, a lot of that engine depends upon either the founder or the one or two people in a leadership position.
Yeah.
And it's not that the business won't continue, God forbid something happened to them, but there is an impact there.
Yeah,
and so it's important for us to add additional layers of security for our investments. It is to make sure that our investors are protected. And so we'll take out those key man policies. God forbid, a piano falls out of the sky and hits the guy or something.
Yeah, or they have a car accident, or they catch COVID.
Yeah.
Mind you, I don't know. A key man insurance is covered by COVID, or is it an act of God?
You know what? That's a great question. There's the question for our insurance guy today. We'll be making that phone call as soon as we get done here.
Yeah, knowing insurance companies, there'll be a slippery way out of it somehow.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm sure. Yeah, knowing the insurance. That's a great point. That's pretty funny.
But yeah, there we are. That's experience for you. Teaches you that insurance companies will find a way out of it if they can.
Right. There's somebody at an insurance company going, that's a great idea. We should rewrite these policies.
Definitely. But they'll even chance it, even if it isn't the policy, but because they'll know it take you 4 or 5 years to get a payout anyway,
I know it. It's crazy.
But yeah, there we are. So yeah, that's a good business. I like that business. Yeah, that's good. It's helping people to grow and to develop and improve their business, and that's what I'm all about. And like you said, life is about a business, about marginal gains. It's about all those little things. They make the difference. There was a guy who took over the British cycling team a few years, like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that. And we went from like not winning anything in cycling to almost dominating the sport in the last 10, 15 years. I think we've had like 4 Tour de France winners, 2 of them multiples and that, where we had like 1, I think, in all our history. Yeah, and all this sort of thing. And his name's Dave Berrelsford. I watched a program about him. And basically what he did is he worked on you take like every single thing that happens in the cycling team. Yeah, so training, kit, bikes, everything. He analysed all, say, 1,000 activities or things, yeah, and looked at how can I make every single one of them slightly better.
Right.
Yeah. And, if you take care of the little details on everything, that all adds up to a massive difference at the back end.
Yeah, it is. There's a Japanese philosophy called Kaizen, and Kaizen means constant or continual improvement. It's this change of 1%. How can I get 1% better in this, in my marketing, in my sales, in my finance, in my margin, in my whatever? How can I get 1% better today or tomorrow or this week? How can I get another 1% better next week? How can I these small little tiny tweaks over time have monumental results? And it sounds like that's what this guy has done.
Yeah, definitely. I say to people at the end of the day, every single thing they do in their sales and marketing, analyze it out of 100 points and score it. Yeah. And most people sit at 6, 7, 8. Even if they're doing well, they sit at 9, 90%, 9 out of 10, 90%. Yeah. Whereas the people making money are the ones who everything they do is 90 to 100%. And the ones really making money is everything they do is at 99%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've really rinsed they've got every single ounce of collateral and benefit out of everything that they do.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So that's why I've always worked in that. I'm always working in that, right? Whatever I do as standard is going to be 90%. And then I'm going to eke the percentages up over time through learning, expertise, trial and error, split testing, all these sort of things which you can do to eke the score up, but you've got to at least aim in that you're going, okay, once I produce something, it's like, okay, is it going to be 90% as good as it could be? And
Right.
once you've produced it and it is, stick it out there, because then that last 10% can take a long time. So just get it out there and then just work on how you can improve it over time. Then,
Yeah, there's always room for improvement. You can always get better, no matter who you are, right?
Yeah. And that's why I've got a podcast, a YouTube channel, all of that, and I want to speak around the world on various different subject matters. But I've been doing what I do for 30 years, so it's like it takes you they say it takes 10,000 hours or whatever to become an expert, whatever. Yeah. And I'm young because I started young, but a lot of people try. They say like fake it till you make it or whatever. But sometimes I just do it. Just do whatever you want to become an expert. Just keep doing it, and eventually you'll get there. Just like now, you probably can spot a winner and a loser quite easily because of all the investments you've done. But in the early days, you could have been hoodwinked into backing some winners that were losers and missed some opportunities with some losers that would have been winners.
I mean, hopefully all of us are getting smarter over time, right? I mean, there's as much as we would like to believe that there is a great value to the university system and university education, and there is, but there's certain things that only experience can teach you, right? Like I can read about doing push-ups all I want, but I'm not going to get in shape until I get my ass in the gym and just do some push-ups, right? You can read about having the right attitude, and you can read about split testing, and you can read about all of these things it is to do as an entrepreneur in order to become successful. But you don't actually know how it's going to work until you actually do it. Yeah. And so there's so much of life in your business and my business and everybody it is that's listening that you just don't know until you do it. And so rather than sitting there and thinking about and sharpening your pencil and sharpening your pencil and sharpening your pencil, and make sure the logo looks right and make sure the website, just start. And I promise you that a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you're going to be a hell of a lot smarter than you are today if you just begin.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I call it applied knowledge and then analyzed knowledge. Yeah, so and then actually reapplying the knowledge from the analysis and learning from that. So you keep honing in, isn't it? It's until knowledge is great, but until you've applied it and really seen the effect of it, it's just knowledge. But once it's applied knowledge, it's a different type of knowledge.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and then once you've actually analyzed the applied knowledge, then you get then it's like data knowledge.
Yeah,
so it's all sort of different layers of knowledge that people who just have the knowledge, they go out and go and teach that knowledge, but they're missing all the other layers of knowledge that they don't realize come through actually just doing the work,
Sure, I'm absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah, definitely. So we've covered quite a lot about sort of the business and the background and all of that. Before we go on to finding out a little bit more about you, how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in finding out more about your financing and that sort of thing?
Well, thanks. I appreciate you asking. So you can find us on the web. It's jb-capital.com, and we're LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever it is that you want. We've got a podcast show, the Jeremy B. Hill Show, that's available everywhere. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, wherever else you can go find us. And so, if anybody wants to reach out or get in touch with us, or there's anything that we can do that helps, certainly reach out. We're happy to do what we can. Thanks for asking.
Brilliant. Yeah, no worries at all. And obviously, we talked on a little bit before we went on air about your interest in football, which I'm
Oh yeah.
always interested in with Americans, because most Americans obviously know a little bit about soccer, but not a lot. Although that has been changing probably the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. You know, every now and then there's always a big player that signed somewhere. Do you support MLS?
I do. I mean, I do because it's home,
Yeah,
for what it is that we are. It's definitely not the caliber of football it is for the rest of the world, of course, right? It's improving, which is nice. But I mean, honestly, amongst COVID, when all these teams have kind of taken off, like the quality of football here in the United States is dreadful. It's just God. Like before, it was a little bit better, but this last 3 or 4 or 5 months watching MLS football amongst COVID, I'd rather watch my kids play FIFA. It's just it's dreadful.
is that because they had no crowds, the same as they have in the UK? They had lack of
Yeah,
crowds.
same thing, no crowds. And then
Yeah,
they did something here for MLS to where they shipped all of the teams into Orlando. And then they had like I mean, almost like a round robin type championship to where
was it?
you were playing a game every other day and they wanted to get through the entire season in like 5 weeks.
Yeah,
And so, okay, sort of, but just the quality of football wasn't, it
just
just,
overkill, and the problem is the crowd is energy, is passion, enthusiasm.
without a
Yeah,
doubt,
and
without a doubt.
it's like watching training ground games and stuff, like a pre-season friendlies or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just not as good as it. It's not without the atmosphere, without the energy. It's just like watching park football, or football at a much slower pace.
Well, I mean, look at Champions League. It is that we just had, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you've got Bayern and PSG there, and normally there'd be what 75,000 people in the stands,
yeah,
and there's nothing. And they're now bringing in audio to make the players think that there's people cheering for them. I mean,
yeah.
it's just weird,
It
and it's
is.
just weird.
It is definitely. It's definitely. I
So,
think.
but yes, we're huge football fans. My kids and my wife and myself and our family are pretty maniacal. So yes,
Yeah, good, good. And which part of the states are you in? I didn't ask you that earlier.
sure. So we live in Seattle. So I live in Washington State, right? And so we're in the northwestern part of the country, and it's nice. We get climate pretty similar to UK, right? I mean, so out of 365 days, we're getting kind of 7 months of clouds and rain and that kind of a thing, and
Okay.
every once in
Yeah,
a while we
yeah.
get some sunshine. But
So you're not a million miles away from California, though, aren't you? You're on the same
no,
side,
not too bad.
just a bit further north.
Yeah, San Francisco's maybe a 2 hour flight, two and a half,
Okay.
about
Yeah,
2 hour
yeah.
flight. San Francisco's not bad, and
Yeah,
then
I
LA.
think if I lived as close as you do to California, I'd be down there by the beaches.
Yeah, it's California's a great part. Very, very, very liberal in their politics.
Yeah.
To their taxes in California. So each of the different states in the United States has
Different tax rules.
different taxes. California is now approaching close to 50%.
Oh, is it?
So
Oh,
it's
oh,
it's
yeah.
pretty heavy. So you have a lot of businesses now that are moving out of California, like even Tesla and Elon Musk is looking at moving his business across the border. He said, well, screw it, I'll just move into Tahoe or I'll move somewhere else. Now I think he's actually moving a lot of their manufacturing facilities to Texas because the tax rate is, it'll save 20% or something crazy. So it's, California is a blessing and a curse, depending upon how you look at it.
Yeah, so the weather's good, but you got to pay for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
Exactly
fair
right.
enough, fair enough. What's the taxes like in Florida? Because the weather's nice there. Is it similar as well? Is that quite high?
It's Florida is pretty advantageous. There's a lot of companies that have moved and have, even though they're half of their operations in California or Texas or somewhere else, is that they'll have their headquarters in Florida because it's more tax beneficial it is to be there. I think that there's also some protections in Florida for companies it is and how it is that they hold their assets. My wife and I have started looking at that a little bit more so.
Okay.
So, we talked about this COVID thing and how it's impacting you to start out with, is that, now the world is changing some, and you figured this out years ago, and we figured it out a couple of years ago that either working from home or not necessarily having 5,000 square feet downtown that you're paying $60 a foot for. Now where you work and where you live don't necessarily need to be the same thing. And so when you're seeing Facebook and Apple and Google and all the biggest companies in the world are now off, like all of their employees have gone home, like here in the States, all of these major companies are telling their employees they don't have to come back to work till August or September of next year.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then most people live where they live because it's close to work.
Because of work, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's in a good school district and, whatever
well,
else.
I've moved around a lot in the last 8 years because I can live anywhere.
That's exactly right. And now I think that that's going to become more normal, right? And so if that's the case, then do you really want to live in Washington State or California or Florida or UK or whatever? Do you want to, you pick up and say, great, I'm going to go live in Marbella. I'm going to live in Spain for a year and get some sunshine and, do something like that because I can, because nobody cares where I live, right?
No. Yeah, exactly. I think that's definitely going to happen a lot more after this situation. Now, there were people like me, the innovators, and I'm very much like to do things not the way everyone else does it. I like to go find a different path, something a bit unique and stuff. Whereas most people, like to follow the routine, if you like. So they like the 9 to 5 or live by their work or all that sort of stuff. But I was leading that way. But I think once you give people a taste of it, which is what's happened now, there's going to be a lot of people not going to want to go back. It's happening in the UK, psychologically wise. People haven't gone back to work. They still want to stay at home and have that sort of work-life balance and not lose 2 hours a day to the, traveling and, 2 hours a day to meetings, an hour to the pub and actually spend that time with their family.
Agreed, 100%. And honestly, you look at it and maybe that's the way that it should be. I mean, there's some people that need that to go to the office, and there's some parts of business that require that, and that's okay. But like you said, when we talked about earlier, is that I don't want to have to get up at 5 and spend an hour in the car, an hour on the train just to get to work and go through a bunch of meetings that I don't give a damn about. Half of them are totally useless. And then I take an hour to go to lunch, and then I come back and I get back on the phone and I do these kinds of things. And then I spend another hour, an hour and a half to try to get home. And, you spend all this time away from the people that you love, when honestly, you could probably get that work done in half the time at home without all of the distractions, without all of the crap that goes with these types of things, and probably be more productive. And I think that that's what companies are beginning to see, is that for a lot of their workforce, they're actually getting more productivity out of them because you're at home and you don't have those distractions. And well, I know that it's 7 o'clock, but I'm going to go spend another 30 minutes on email and just finish this thing up or whatever, right? When normally, hey, it's 5 o'clock, I'm going home, forget it, I'll see you tomorrow, right? And so it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know, now that we've been in this 6 months, I don't know if it's ever going to go back fully to the way that it was. Because think about, Mike and Jeremy's software business, right? Whatever we own together, finance business, whatever. If for the last 10 years, we've had a building downtown and we're paying $50 a foot for it, and we got 5,000 square feet, and now we've been off for 6 months, nobody's been in the office, and we're still 90% production. Like, why am I paying? Right? Why am I paying?
You're going to work that one out quickly. I don't need to pay for that.
Why am I paying $40,000 a month for rent? Right? Maybe I don't need 5,000 square feet. Maybe I need 1,500 square feet, and I bring guys in the office one day every 2 weeks. Or if you need a place to land.
People are naturally not trustworthy, and they didn't trust their staff, but now they know they can trust them. I'm somebody who always knew that this was the way that things were going to go. I always knew this was the way. In fact, I'm somebody who believes there should probably be a 4-day working week and 3 days on the weekend, because I think people will get more done again if you give them a better work-life balance, because they wouldn't get burnout and they wouldn't be so exhausted. And the thing is, even when you've got 2 days on a weekend, if you say spend a day keeping fit and stuff and a day going out to do chores, you don't have a day for your family, right? Or if you have a day doing your family and a day doing you can that's what I always found, is you can never get everything done that you want to get done on a weekend. But I think
Right.
with 3 days, most people want to, go out and do hobbies and stuff one day. They want to see their family another day, and they want to go and do shopping and the chores and other things another day. Yeah. So you give
Yeah.
them the 3 days to do the things they want to, because they've got everything done, and they're feeding their soul by seeing the family, and feeding their soul by doing their hobbies and their interests. Yeah. And actually keeping themselves in administration, a good situation, because they got time to go shopping and get their suits cleaned and all of that sort of stuff. If you give people all of that, they'll produce much more for you in the time that you give them, because they haven't got all of these outside distractions going on in their
Agreed.
life, like.
Agreed. 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 100%. It
Yeah.
is.
So
And for you and for me, a lot of us, a lot of the entrepreneurs, it never feels like work. I mean, I'm
no,
like you, I work 7 days a week because I want to. I like it. Like I
exactly.
can't, like sitting at home and or going and playing golf 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I would go crazy.
Yeah.
I would go
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, I like the aspect of this. So it'll be interesting to see how things change. And so we've considered, looking at other climates and other places, and not only in the States, but other places in the world, to see if it, makes sense. Because you can run your business from anywhere, so can I, right? And
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting to see where these things go. Just as long as you you're in a reasonably safe kind of place, you've got really good connectivity for phone communications, video, these kinds of things. And as long as I can have a good cigar and watch proper football when I want to, then we're going to be happy. We're
Yeah,
going to be
yeah,
happy.
definitely, definitely, and yeah, and I think I think there's a couple of things that are going to change from this. I think it accelerated a lot of things by 30 years in 6 months. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the working from home hours and flexibility and all that has just ramped up 30 years in 6 months, and I think the now the opportunity of people being able to think I can go anywhere and work from anywhere. Those two things are the two things that have accelerated rapidly in this 6 month period,
Agreed. Agreed
Yeah.
100%.
And I think the other thing, which I think is to be seen yet, but I think we were still not getting over the global recession, and we was just slowly plateauing and slightly increasing, but we hadn't really got over it. And now this is going to be what I consider to be probably twice as long. And so if 2008 to 20 was 12 years and we hadn't quite got over it, I think this is going to be a 15 to 20-year problem, yeah, which I don't think we would get over um, quickly, because it's a lot of knock-on effect, and it's global. Whereas the global credit crunch wasn't quite global. It was
Right.
nearly global, but it wasn't quite. This is global and longer and harder. But I think once the wheat gets sorted from the chaff, I think what you're going to see is the efficiency of all of these businesses pivoting to online, selling online, doing 8 appointments via Zoom a day rather than 2 in the car.
Right.
I think all of those things actually going to see a bounce that we haven't seen economically for a while. So I think it might go back to the old boom and bust. I thought
Right.
boom and bust had gone because they've manipulated economies so much now. No savers make any money, but no debtors ever owe any money. They put everyone in the middle. So basically, there's no boom and bust. It's just a slow ride through life,
Right.
through eternity. But I think we might get a bounce back. I think we might get a globalization, tech efficiency boost for a while.
Well, that would be great, except for the 15-year recovery. That part scares me, but the tech innovation and kind of boom towards everybody becoming more efficient in the way that they do business, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
And I think all of us now are becoming more and more okay. I mean, you remember 6 months ago doing Zoom calls and this kind of a thing wasn't weird, but it was kind of, it is what it is. And now, yeah, you're doing 5, 6, 7 of them a day, which candidly, I would much rather do this than sit in traffic an hour across town to have tea with somebody who's 15 minutes late, who like that stuff drives me crazy. And so I miss the personal aspect of it, and this is pretty good, especially when you're cross country or across the pond, right? But the some of this will have to normalize to where every third meeting, every fourth meeting, something is personal, face to face. Like I don't think we get to a point to where we remove the totality of the human personal element.
Yeah, no, I think it's for the right deals, the right business transactions,
Yeah.
you need to meet someone, see their body language, trust them implicitly, shake hands on the deal. I think
Yeah.
those deals will still happen.
Agreed.
It'll be that every, like say for example, you used to go and see a customer once a quarter to keep, for account management purposes. Now you'll go and you'll speak to them mostly on Zoom. Go to see them to close the deal if it's a big one. Not bothered if it's a small one. And then I think the middle appointments that you would have done probably be done on Zoom. Just have a chat, a quick catch in and whatever. And then if, for example, it was coming to a renewal of a contract or something like that, then you might go and see them again. I think
Yeah. Agreed.
that's probably how the shape will go in that sales sort of world.
Yeah. Agreed. But the day-to-day stuff, you're right. 100% can be done over Zoom. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, and also I think I'm big into, well, I want to become a global speaker, but I'm big into that sort of networking and events and personal development space and all of that.
Sure.
And I think that's changed forever now as well. I think you're going to get a lot more online events.
Yeah, and you're seeing. So I'm a big fan and follower of that as well as just personal development and making sure it is that you're spending time doing mental push-ups, right? Making sure
Yeah,
that gray matter between your ears is strong, and you're starting to see what maybe 2 weeks ago, I think, Tony, or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Tony Robbins did one of his big, events that he does.
yeah,
And he did it 100% virtual, and he's in this giant studio. It is with 1,000 people on Zoom all at the same time,
yeah.
and was awesome, from everything I can see. And so it'll be interesting when sports transitions that way, or some of the other things that you and I are used to being in person on. And so that will also evolve because of technology with artificial intelligence and kind of creating that idea of more of a virtual experience for those things. So it'll be interesting to see where those things go. But that business, I think, is critical. It's important for all of us too, because if we're going to miss that human element, if we're going to miss that, I went to a sales meeting and I got excited, or whatever it is, there's going to be a large part of this too that we're all now working from home that needs to be psychological development in helping, Mike, when you're home and you don't see the 20 guys that you see at the office every day, and you don't have lunch with the guy, and you're not with the same 4 guys at the pub every Wednesday, and these kinds of things, that you need to replace that. And a lot of replacing that needs to be through either a book or an audio book or a video or something like this. It is that can give you that lift and serotonin in your brain that makes you feel positive and makes you feel excited and makes you feel encouraged and those types of things. That's going to be hugely important.
Yeah, definitely. But I used to have 2 real world networking events a week, and now I'm doing sometimes 6, minimum 6 usually, sometimes 10 events a week. So I'm meeting a lot more people,
Oh,
and
that's great.
building friendships and relationships and all of that. So for me, like I said, I never felt lonely at home working from home for 8 years, because I was always going out and meeting people anyway, networking and that sort of thing. But now I feel like I've never met and known so many people. And the thing is like entrepreneurs and people into personal development, and you don't see them everywhere. They're not everywhere. And actually, by going online, I'm finding much more people, if you like, kindred spirits, or people who are much more like you, and that they're
Yeah,
finding each other, on
agree.
Facebook and on LinkedIn, and on all of these places, on podcasts. And so actually, I'm actually finding there's a lot more people like me than I thought there was. It's just they're dotted all around the world.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Well, because the entrepreneurs and the guys that are driven, the guys like you and the guys like me, we want that. We're reaching out to that. There's a lot of people that I think are waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. When you and I are getting up and going and creating that, and so we end up finding these relationships 5,000 miles away, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'm blessed by the conversation it is that we have today, like full of energy, super excited about sharing time with you. Like, I know you and I are going to be friends, and
yeah,
we're going to keep talking and keep in touch on everything. And you love the beauty of those types of relationships, but that happens through technology, and that happens through us wanting that and creating that and finding those types of things. So I think that's fantastic.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say to you, obviously, I'm working with a friend of mine in the UK who is looking for UK businesses to help and fund, and also for investors to always join in to keep building that pot so they can help more and more businesses. So I'm already in that space.
Good for
Obviously, as I'm bringing a lot of people on, I tend to resonate more with Americans because I've always said I'm more American in my mindset and in my thought processing than I am British because, I like to win. And it's all about winning, and
right,
that is much more an American way and mindset than the plucky, at least he's giving it a go, which is,
right.
how Britain has often been in the past. I think we've got a lot better, especially since we put the lottery funding into our sports, and actually
Hmm.
since we had the London 2012. All of a sudden, we started competing again on the global basis, and our
Right.
boxers are doing well, and our athletes are doing okay. We're never going to be American and the athletes and the Jamaicans, but things like rowing and sailing and cycling, and now we're all anything that involves equipment of some sort, we're always on fire, and so we're starting to get a bit more of that mentality. But I grew up as a competitive, sporty kid and got used to winning straight away, and that's been my life. Is always about how you can push yourself on, how you can get bigger, better, do more, win, win, win. It's all about that. And so I
Yeah.
suppose that's so I get a lot of Americans come on my podcast because again, it's the vibrations, the waves, whatever, the people, and I think, yeah, it's great. So as I get those businesses on, obviously, if I find any of them that are interested in some funding, if you had an affiliate scheme or
Yeah.
something, then I think there's some business to be done as well as a great sort of friendship.
Yeah, which would be great. And if there's opportunities that we can help somebody in your audience, and whether it's money, that's great. Whether it's just advice and counsel, that's great too. So anything we can do to help anybody that's a listener of yours, we're happy to help.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, well, send me some information about that and also a link to your website. And I'll put the link
I
to
will.
the website in my description and stuff of the show. And then, yeah, if there's anything I can do to help you, obviously 30 years of sales and marketing experience. So if there's anything, if you're looking to reach out to a European market, say, and you wanted an idea of how to do that, any things that
Perfect. I
whenever you need a
absolutely
little bit
will.
extra advice, that.
That's perfect. Thanks, Mike. I will.
Yeah, brilliant. And also I know I met a guy who's just like me, but he's about 20 years older than me, but same mindset and stuff. And he's a big networker as well. And so I can put you in touch with him as well if you like, because he's I got a lot of connections and contacts. I got 15,000 connections on LinkedIn. Probably
Wow.
500 of them I can pick up a phone to and speak to, and they know who I am and I know who they are, and we got that
Right.
decent relationship. He's got
Sure.
about 500 the same in that pool. He's got 30,000 in the database, and he's based in California. So he's very similar sort of minded to me, but based in California, massive network. So I think he'd be good for you to speak to.
Sure. Love to meet him.
Yeah, Robert, his name is. So I'll do an introduction to you because I'm always about trying to put people together who I think can help each other in some way.
Yeah. Agreed. 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 Well,
Brilliant.
that's awesome, man. Thank you, dude. I loved being on the show. It was great. Thank you so much.
No problem
Now we
at
just
all. And
now we have to get Klopp to win again next year, and we're going to be
yeah,
in good shape.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's going to be tough because winning the Premier League second time in a row is always a tough one because everyone's that little bit more motivated to beat you when you're champions,
That's
and
right.
it's a tough league. There's always surprising results. So we'll see. But I think we got a team that could go and do a double, do it 2 years in a row, but we'll wait and see. But
Well,
yeah, great.
even last year when City won, it was hard. To call Liverpool a loser,
Oh yeah,
right?
well, one
Right.
point in the Champions League, I think we were the better team of the season. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Agreed. Agreed.
So,
100%.
but yeah, what was I going to say then? I was going to say something. Oh yeah, I was going to say connect with me on LinkedIn and like and
Yeah.
comment on my posts, and I'll do the same with yours, and I'll share them
Brilliant.
as well. I don't
Brilliant.
always
Love
ask other people to share them because they want their content to be tight. Whereas I'm a marketing company, so I share everyone's content. You know what I mean? It's all in the pot. But yeah, connect on, stay connected on socials. If ever you got anything you want to really push, tag me in and I'll market it for you. I like helping people out. And if I think about, well, if you want to deep dive on a subject or something, that's what I normally do with my second one. So I haven't done a lot of second ones because I'm quite good at getting people on first time, and I got a big network. But when I get people on a second time, instead of finding out a bit of an overview of their business and stuff, I like to deep dive into a subject that they want to talk about and I want to learn about.
Perfect. That'd be great. I'd love
Yeah,
to.
so we can always do that, down the line. Or if you've got, if for example you were launching a podcast, which you've already got, but if you were launching one and you wanted to come on and promote that, I'm all about helping people, reach other audiences that they're not in at the moment. Because if I can offer them value at some point, someone will offer me value, because that's how karma works.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, tell your, for you guys that are listening, yeah, have them go check out. So we just launched our podcast about 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so it's the Jeremy B. Hill Show. And so it's everywhere, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever else you want to go find it, it's there. But yeah, would love your opinion. Go give a listen.
I'll go and have a listen, and I'll give you my opinion. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
and what was I going to say then? There was something else I was just popped into my head then as we were about to go. About the podcast. Oh yes, what area of is it just the United States that you lend money to businesses, or can you go outside of that area?
Sure. So for us in our documents, so legally when we register, we have to put together a framework of how and where we lend. And so right now we only lend in the United States and Canada. So I can't go outside of that.
So US and Canada though. Okay, I get quite a lot of people on from Canada. So yeah. I've been on a few podcasts in Canada as well. And
nice.
I started to do a few more podcasts because I was busy just doing my own and getting my own guests on. But I also was on a radio station in the UK as well. So, and keep building the momentum. If you know anyone who's got a podcast and they want somebody to talk about entrepreneurialism and sales, marketing, social media, anyone you come across, I'm always happy to guest on other podcasts.
I would love to. That'd be great. Happy to do it.
Brilliant. To do it. All right, then. Thanks a lot for coming on, and have a great day.
Enjoyed it, Mike. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye-bye. And there's nothing else left for me to say other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. Cheers. Bye-bye.